Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, a full-time coloured pencil artist specialising in wildlife art, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. As a mum, I understand the need to de-stress, and I really believe in the calming, therapeutic magic of sitting down with your pencils and connecting with the beauty of nature. Today I'm sharing a quick intro on how I completed a colour pencil background. We're working on a vibrant piece featuring a hummingbird and flowers with this beautiful, colourful background. I'm using Faber-Castell polychromos pencils and a whole mix of other colours to build in depth and interest. To smooth out that background and give a soft, painterly finish, we're using Zest-It solvent blender and a brush. It really helps to blend those layers seamlessly. If you're working from the 60 set of polychromos, don't worry, I've created a list of alternate colours for my Patreon so you can still follow along even if you don't have every pencil I'm using in the tutorial. You can find the full tutorial including a step-by-step background technique and colour list over on my Patreon. I'd love to see you there if you'd like to dive deeper into this piece and join a community of nature-loving artists. Let's take a look at how we get started with that soft, vibrant background using colour pencils and solvent. So the first thing we need to do is get our outline down on the page. If you're not sure how to do this, I do have tutorial videos on my Patreon as well to teach you how to do this. So the first thing we're going to do is put in this hummingbird and starting with the eye. So you need to make sure you're having really sharp points on your pencils just to get in all of those really little details because the bird is quite small on the page. We go in with some of the colours in the eye to help that blue colour come through, and also use some of our white waxy pencil to ensure that we keep the highlight nice and bright. For the feathers on the head, I went through with the warm grey 5 and just put in where you can see all of those little darker sections to start with. Then we go over with a base layer of some of the cold and warm greys and then start to build in some of those colours you can see. So there are lots of pinks, blues, greens in this sort of feather. And one of the trickiest parts was putting in the beak, making sure you have a really sharp pencil again, and we're putting in some of the blue tones along with the black to get this in. Moving on to the wings, we just go in with a really nice base layer and then start to get darker with the dark indigo. I also added some browns in there, burnt umber, and then we also go through with some of the earth green yellowish. And you can also blend down with your white pencil to give it that sort of opaque look. And with the body, what I did was go over with a couple of base layers under the feathers, which included some of the cadmium yellow, cobalt turquoise, cobalt green, cobalt blue greenish. And then what I did was use some of the dark indigo to go through and put in those little semicircle pieces where you can see each of the feathers. And then you can just go through, add all of those little details in, making sure to pay really close attention to your reference photo. And then once you're working on plants or petals or leaves and things like that, with colour pencil, it's just a matter of focusing on one little section at a time. So pick like one leaf or one shape, go through and put that in and then move on to the next one. This sort of thing does take a really long time, but like I was explaining before, this is the beauty of colour pencil. It's all about enjoying the process, breaking down each section, having a look at all of the colours and tones that you can see in each shape, and really just getting in the zone and focusing on each little section. And then finally, it's time to put in the background. I chose to put in the background last with this piece just because with colour pencil you can't go over things like you can with paint. So with paint you would go through and do all of the background, and then moving on to the foreground you can just paint over what you've done. But with colour pencils it doesn't work that way. So when you're looking at the background, you just need to break down all of the shapes and colours that you can see, and you want to make sure that you're not having any harsh lines or really sharp points on your pencil. This is just because the background is blurry, so you want to make it look like it's nice and soft with not any harsh lines or sharp edges. To create this sort of texture, you want to make sure that you're holding your pencil on the side, flat to the surface of the paper. Hold your pencil towards the end and you would just really lightly glaze it across the paper to put down really light layers. You'll need to go down with several layers, gently building them up. When you have a really good base down, then we're able to go through with the colour pencil Zest-It to make it nice and smooth. With this liquid, all you need to do is just dip it in and then wipe it off on the side of the glass, and then just going in very smoothly, remembering that some of the pencil may smudge or mix with other colours. So if you start in light areas and then move on to dark areas is best practice. After you've mixed everything down, it will need some time to dry because it can get quite wet underneath the paper, and then once it's dry we can go over with more layers. The extra layers on the top you can go in with more of a harder pressure, but you still want to go in with sort of a medium pressure, not too hard, and building up the layers gradually again. You can go back over and blend it down with the Zest-It once again if you need to. There's no limit or ways that you need to do it. whatever's going to work for you is okay. And this is one of the things that I speak to my Patreons about as we go through this piece. Depending on the pencils, the paper, the solvent, and all of the supplies that you're using, it may blend down differently than how it looks on my page. So you just need to use your own judgment on how much you feel like it needs to be blended down. There are other options that you can use to blend things down as well. Going in with a white waxy pencil, I did this a little bit towards the end, helps get it nice and smooth and dulls down some of that color if you need to. There's also blending stumps that you can use. The Caran d'Ache blender pencil is also really good to make it nice and smooth and squish all of that color pencil together. But although you're just shading and it looks quite simple, it can be very tricky and it does take a really long time to build up the colors and get it nice and smooth, and it can be frustrating. And this is one of the great things about the tutorial, is that we go over all of this as you go through the piece. We do each step by step. I explain the techniques and the resources that I'm using as we go along. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the backgrounds, I have some smaller pieces available on Patreon that we also have backgrounds for that are a little bit smaller to work with. When you're looking at this piece as well, you don't want to be fully seeing the background straight away. So when you're looking at it, you really just want to see the bird and the flower. The background is just sort of an afterthought. So you need to make sure you're getting it nice and blended so it's nice and smooth and not taking away the focus from the actual bird and the flower. So again, when you're completing your background, you want to make sure you're holding your pencil really far back at the bottom of the pencil. You're holding it really flat to the side of the page and you're just glazing it over really, really lightly. If your pencil is really, really sharp, just hold it really flat to the side of the page and you can blend it down really smoothly and gently. Also, before you go through with your solvent and blend everything down, you want to make sure you have a couple of layers of color pencil. And when I say a couple, I mean quite a few. So just going down with 2 or 3 layers of pencil, it won't blend very well. So you need to make sure you're going in with quite a few layers. If you're going into like a lighter section where the lighter sort of blue sections are, I go in with those with some of the cobalt green, also going over with some of the cold grey one and the warm grey one, and then building up that cobalt green again and then going over with more cold greys. So you do a couple of layers of these. It just helps it blend a lot better and looks thicker on the page, rather than if you just blend down the cobalt green just by itself, it'll just be really, really light and you'll just have to build up a lot more layers to match the darkness that's there as well. So make sure to go through with a lot of layers of your color pencil before you go through with the solvent and blend it down. But I really hope that you like this video. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to check this tutorial out, it's available on Patreon. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.